Hey, what's up, Cat Army? FSUA Gaming here again, showing you guys a video on how to take apart a gearbox. Yes, a lot of you guys have been requesting it in my DMs, and here it is at last. So, for instance, for this particular build, we are using the EMG/Retro Arms Quick Change version 2 gearbox shell. These ones are really good for any high stress DSGs, SSGs, or DMR builds, or just all around a balanced build. These are very reliable, very lightweight, and they fit into mostly any lower receiver, so it makes it very nice and easy to operate with. Now, I will be occasionally using this Arcturus version 2 Quick Change gearbox as an example, because mine has a MOSFET, it does not have the cutoff lever, and yeah, so anyways, into the build. So you got your gun and you want to upgrade it, so let's get into it. First things first, you got your quick change spring system right back here. So you just want to take your Allen key, your flathead, Phillips, or if you're not a bitch, you got your thumb. What you want to do is push in, twist it like that. Whoa. Keep on twisting, because you don't have an Allen key, so you want to keep on twisting. All right, tough times create strong men, baby. Let's go. All right, just wiggle it out, and boom, here we go. So I'll be giving you guys a little bit of information on each part too. This is your spring. There's a couple different types of springs. There's SP100s, M100s. I personally like the M100 springs. The e-bike regular pitch does great. Irregular pitches are always good because it's as you can see, there's coils here, coils in the back. It helps it compress a little bit better, a little bit straighter, so it doesn't bind as much or snap, and you also get great FPS, you know what I mean? And as you can see, it looks like I could push it in very easily, but on this particular build it gets me 398 FPS, 2 FPS lower than the field requirement. And this right here is your spring guide, and these ones right here have ball bearings and it moves, so it's very nice. The reason why you want that is as the spring is sitting on here, you know, as you can see, it twists so it doesn't bind, and it you know, of course this thing is compressing all the way down here in like in a fraction of a second, so you don't want it to bend or cock or anything funny like that, because that can snap and that can make a really bad day for you guys. So for this gun in particular, you got a couple screws you want to take out here, 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 and here. Some of your guys' other builds also have 2 additional screws, which are going to be here and here. So what you want to do is go ahead and take those out. A lot of times they're going to either be torque screws or Phillips. Make sure you do not torque these down when reassembling, because those heads will snap. I'm talking to you, King Arms. Your bolts always snap on the customer's guns, and I get the guns in and all the gearbox screws are snapped. All right. And on another note, there are also 3 different types of version 2 gearboxes at this moment that I know of. There is the first one, which is ICS, really made it famous, which is the split design gearbox shell. So your split design gearbox shell has well, like I say, it's in the name. The top portion splits and the lower portion stays in the bottom of the gun. Makes it very easy to do any quick repairs, definitely when you're on the field. You got this style, which is your quick change version 2 gearbox, and then you got the original traditional style, which is like what you'll see in your G&G combat machines, which is the non-quick change gearbox, which is just smooth in the back with a little hole for the buffer screw. It makes it a little bit harder, but still totally doable. If this is your first time teching, I highly recommend getting a gun that has a quick change, you know what I mean? So if your gun, like I said, doesn't have a quick change, you usually have a window here. If not, take a screwdriver, put it through the buffer tube screw, hold the buffer tube screw, hold the spring guide down like this, because there'll be a little hole. Or you want to use the screwdriver, put it in and hold it down like this. That way when you pop it open, the spring doesn't go like that, you know, and it'll make everything shoot out of the gun. So for this one in particular, how I do it is I put my finger here, take my fingers like this and into here, and I push my fingers in, pops it up, and everything comes out. Sometimes it doesn't want to come up as easy. Just slowly lift it up and take your screwdriver and poke the screw, the gears down so it doesn't catch in. Anyways, into the gearbox. This is your gearbox, okay? I'm gonna take you guys off the stand, bring it down here. So first things off, this is what it should look like. So if you just want to use this video as a little guide to what it should all look like, there you go. And now talking about the parts themselves, you got your air component system. So you got these guys right here. This is your pretty much, yeah, your everything to do with your air compression. So you got your piston right here. This is what the spring goes into, like this inside of the gun. It sits like that, and it goes in and pushes forward. Right, and then right onto here, you got your cylinder. So there are different types of cylinders. There's ported cylinders, non-ported cylinders. They all go for the millimeter of your inner barrel. So say if your gun has a 363 millimeter inner barrel, you probably want a 3/4 ported piston. As you can see right here, this one, like the max ones, actually have it right here, 450 through 550 millimeter inner barrels. Mine was a 509 millimeter inner barrel, and that's why I got this one. If you're just trying to do a high FPS build, just go ahead for these ones, but also be careful on over-voluming or under-voluming your gun. To the next part, you got your cylinder head. This sits just like here, and right into the little grooves, just like so. This one here has a nice thick padding that helps with the piston hitting it, because one, it helps with the AOE correction, and as well as it reduces the chance of you fracturing the front of the gearbox shell, which usually happens right in here on these two stress points. So that's why it's always good to get like a lightened piston. Like this one's all polycarbonate, has speed holes cut out to lighten it up, and it has the real deal cylinder head, because these are the best ones out there. If you're struggling with low FPS compression, go ahead and do this little test. Put it all in, take your thumb, put it on top, hold the cylinder, and push in. You guys can see how there's no giveaway at all. It's like an air suspension, you know? It's like an air suspension. That's because that's perfect air seal. You can always use a little bit of Teflon tape, and that helps a lot. This right here is your air nozzle. This is what you see sticking out the end of your gearbox like that. This is the one that also helps load the BBs. As your Tappet plate sits like this, right? As it goes in, the BB shoots up into the hop-up chamber, and then it shoots back out, pushes it into the hop-up unit, and it gets shot out with the air coming through the air nozzle. So this all works as one beautiful system, just like so. And as you can see, the Tappet plate actually rides with the help of the sector gear, you know, moves like that. And it has a spring that goes onto this post as well. So with this out of the way, you got your the lower half of your gearbox, right? So you got your sector gear right here, and this sector gear in particular has a delayer chip. The delayer chip helps with feeding, definitely on high-speed builds. As you can see, as this goes, it grabs the Tappet plate, moves it back a little bit, and as the Tappet plate gets let go of, this shoots back forward, loading the BB. Next on the list, you have your spur gear. Your spur gear acts as pretty much the middleman, you know. It helps direct the power to the front and the back, you know, from the bevel gear to the sector gear. Then you got your bevel gear right here. This is the one that sits right here, just like so. And the motor pinion, the pinion gear goes in, touches this right here, these teeth out here. And as the motor spins, it turns this like that. Turns the spur gear, turns the sector gear, makes the whole gun shoot. So this is a very important gear to make sure you shim very well. And the last part right here of the lower parts is the anti-reversal latch. This is the part that everybody always messes up on, loses, and this is one of the main reasons why I have a lot of customers, is because this prevents people from fully putting their gun back together. It's a very difficult thing, but I'll show you guys my little tricks and methods. Moving on forth, you got your trigger right here. This guy just pops right off, and you got your trigger spring. These guys go hand in hand. This, for instance, is the max model speed trigger that's adjustable. So you got your spring, you got the little sharp part, goes right into the armhole. The big loop goes over this. Should sit just like that, running its grooves. And then how I've always installed is hold it and pinch it in and drop it in. So for my particular gun, it has the MOSFET. So this is the Prune version 2 hybrid MOSFET. A lot of your guys' guns, if it doesn't have a MOSFET, will have a traditional wiring system just like this. So this guy sits right in here like that, and once it closes and it makes a complete circuit, makes the gun shoot. But in my case, I don't have that. And then moving on to the other gearbox, which my gun doesn't have because of the MOSFET, it doesn't have a safety and it doesn't have the cutoff lever. So a cutoff lever works like this. It pretty much sits with the sector gear right here, and as a sector gear, they have these little tiny loops right here, right? So as it moves, it hits that and it drops it down, lets it go, drops it down, lets it go, drops it down, lets it go. And so pretty much that helps with your semi-auto. So if your semi-auto is not working, usually check this spring to make sure you still have it or it's not worn out. If it isn't worn out and you still got it, then you got to replace this guy. So if your gun's shooting a full auto and semi-auto, that's usually the culprit. Okay, so and then you got your safety, which will be a little piece of plastic that sits right here that comes onto the other side where the selector plate is, and when the selector plate isn't safe, it pushes it up, which pushes it up here, which will block the trigger from making any contact. Okay, now on to the reassembly. Oh yeah, last thing. These are your bearings, your bushings, right? For the retro arms, it's an 8mm. I'm using the EMG Umbrella Arms J cage bearings, which is one of the best ones out there at the moment. Yeah, so each gearbox is going to be a little bit different. There's like 6 8mm bearings, so make sure you get the right ones if you're going to order new ones. So back into reassembling the gearbox, I always like to start off with the sector gear like this, and then before this, if you guys are messing with new gears or checking out, please make sure you shim your gun. There's plenty of videos on how to do it online, but please make sure you do it right, because if you don't, you're gonna break your gun. Secondly, your gun's gonna sound like dookie, and third, your gun's not gonna perform as good, you know. Okay, so past that, once you got your gun shimmed, you got your the desired amount of shims on each gear, which for mine it's a little messed up, but this is just my little test gearbox to show you guys. But you want to take your spur gear, you want to drop it in, you want to take your anti-reverse latch, make sure it's just like this, okay guys. You want to drop it in. Here, I'll bring it down here. I'm going to drop you in, boop, like this, and I'm going to lift it over the spur gear by keeping that spring in place, right? And I'm just going to take my finger and just push it to the side. Then I'm going to take my bevel gear, I'm going to put it right into the hole, push down, holding the bevel gear and the top of the anti-reverse latch. I'm going to slowly let the anti-reverse latch push against this. Sometimes this guy is going to want to lift up and try to come out of the hole. If that's the case, then just put the gun all back together and then put this in last. Usually people can put magnets on the bottom to hold it down. I personally like using the thick grease, like silicone grease, and to hold it in place for a little bit. Okay, next up, you want to take your sector gear. You want to place it in. There's no particular way to place it in at first, but as much as I know, but I like to install it with the T side down and have it like almost ready to just take a shot. With the trigger, make sure all the wiring is out of the way. Nothing is in the post hole. Nothing is in the body pin hole either. This is your body pin hole. That little hole right there. So make sure that's nice and clear. Once it is, I'm going to take my trigger just like this, place it like here, right? I'm just going to lay it down like that. I can't do it with my with one hand, but I'll show you guys how I do it. Just place it in just like so. I'm going to take it while holding the gearbox and supporting it. I'm just gonna drop it in. It should click in pretty easily. If not, just take your time and just really look at it to see how it's going in. You want to make sure the spring is all the way down or pretty much out of the way. And how I like to test to make sure the trigger is sitting in properly, push down just on the post, hold the gearbox, everything should work perfect. Okay, now moving forward into the reassembling the compressor parts. Okay, You got your cylinder, you got your cylinder head. Push it down, make sure this part is nice and flat against everything. Tapping a little bit in, that's perfectly fine. Just push it back out a little bit. Get it pretty much lined up by eye. And then you want to take your piston, reassemble it. You want to take your air nozzle, pop it back in. You want to take your tappet plate, make sure that these grooves line up with these grooves. And you want to make sure that it moves together as one unit, right? You want to make sure they're connected. Make sure your tappet plate spring is onto the tappet plate, just like this. What you're going to do is you're going to slowly, just like this, just place it in. Make sure the piston's metal teeth are facing down. So just place it in, right? So you can see off the bat, mine doesn't want to sit down all the way, right? It doesn't feel secure. You see, it's very movey, very moves around. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna push down on here, grab the sides of the gearbox, and I'm gonna take the cylinder head, not the piston, just the cylinder. Okay, here, I'll even take this out of the way, just to make it a little bit easier so you guys can see. Okay, boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna push forward, right? All right, perfect. So it moved up just a little bit, and I felt it just sit in just a little bit better. So from there, I'm just gonna reinsert the piston. Check to do this. Always do this once you install the cylinder, right? Because say if it is just a little bit off, you might not be able to see it or feel it, but you'll be able to see with the piston. If the piston doesn't want to move fully, it's like dragging, it's not sitting down. But you see, this is moving nice and easily. That's what we want. Next up, you want to take the tappet plate spring, put it right onto the post. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to take my handy dandy tool right here, put it right into the hole, put the tool, oh shoot, just like this. I'll show you guys up close, just like this. I'm just going to lift it up. As I'm lifting it up, I'm going to hold the tappet plate down too, okay? Just like this. And I'm just going to, oh, whoops. Try one more time. Just gonna slide it on top, just like that. Then from here, just want to make sure it's sitting nice and low. Perfect. As you guys can see, the tappet plate automatically wants to lift up, which is perfectly fine. But just make sure when you push down, it sits down nice and flat. That's good. Hold it down and make sure it moves a little bit. Good. That's what we want. And do a quick once over. So this is how I do it, okay? Piston moves, check. Cylinder head, the air nozzle, all connected, check. This still moves, check, perfect. Okay. And from here, oh, see my trigger's about to fly off. It's all right, just reposition it. Make sure everything is nice and clean. All right, good. Okay, make sure the anti-reversal latch didn't flip around. Sometimes it'll flip, you know what I mean? So that way the gears can't turn this way, which that's the way it needs to go. So make sure it didn't flip. Sometimes it does, but just be careful. The trigger is good, the trigger works nice. All right, I think we're ready for assembly, guys. So I'm trying to put you guys close, just like so, and this is how it's gonna go. Take your shell, okay, put your finger here, just close it. A lot more simpler said than done. If your gun has the spring and it doesn't have a quick change gearbox, from here what you would want to do, put your spring in, make sure that the smaller coils are always towards the spring guide. Hold it down like this, and you want to push. I know it's going to be hard, but that's what you gotta do. Push it in, and the spring guide will hold right in here. For mine it doesn't, because it's not it is a quick change, but it'll hold like this. Your spring will be in here, right? What you want to do is take a screwdriver, place it in, and bend it down. So if you want to take your screwdriver, push it towards the table, that'll stop the spring from going like this. Boop. And then if that happens, of course, everything's gonna fly off. This flying off, this flying off, your fist flying through the air, you're gonna be mad. So just make sure, be careful on this. That's what I say, if you're gonna start teching, make sure you get a gun that's a quick change, okay? So what you want to do is line it up. You're gonna see you see the gears right there? You see the little shiny part? That's the anti-reversal latch, okay? So you want to make sure you line it all up. Very careful, right? I can see that just my hands off. This is almost aligned, this is aligned, this is aligned, this is almost aligned, and this is aligned, right? Okay, that's pretty good, that's pretty good. No, don't take your time, kind of feel around, kind of look at it, see, see if everything's going in. I gave it a little push and it popped in, right? It's not fully seated though yet, see? Not fully seated. I'm gonna make sure that the wires are not gonna get pinched anywhere. And I'm just gonna push down. Just like so, right? I can see that it's still not sitting down. I'm gonna pull the trigger, nothing. I'm gonna push this in, and everything sat down, you see? So sometimes the air nozzle, not the air nozzle, the tappet plate will kind of pop off just a little bit. It'll sit like right on this groove. And so what you wanna do is when you push it in, it pops back into the groove. And so when that happens, you just wanna make sure, again, that everything is moving as it should. Trigger, good. The air nozzle, perfect. Okay, we're ready for assembly. Take your screws, throw them back in. I'm gonna move you guys back up. Right there, cool. And we're just gonna screw back in. All right. So definitely when you're taking apart your airsoft gearbox, it's always easier than it looks, right? You know what I mean? Like, I try to go slow, but I move pretty fast on them, but that's also from years of experience. I started teching when I was 12. I successfully took apart a version 2 gearbox all the way apart. Like, I'm talking every screw, everything is taken off, and I successfully put it back together when I was 14. I think right when I turned 14. And after that day, I started upgrading my guns. Once I started upgrading my guns, I was able to fix my guns. Once I was able to fix my guns, I did it with my buddies. And from my buddies, I started helping out kids at the field who had their guns broken, who couldn't like afford a tech. So I fixed their guns for free. And then it became a little thing where I was like, I was working on people's guns. People were asking if I could build them guns, because I charged a lot cheaper than the fields, you know what I mean? Like, if you wanted your gun fully upgraded back in the day, it was 40 bucks. I would take apart your whole gun, install max hop-up unit, a DSG, everything. I'll put everything in for like 40 bucks. So I was very cheap back then. Okay, next up, I'm gonna take a spring, just drop it in, and from here you use your Allen key, flathead, or your thumb, and just push it in and just turn it. See, you can see the tabs, right? They're not fully closed, so just turn it again, turn it again, turn it again, and boom, locks in. Perfect. From there, you got your gun back together. Congratulations, you're ready to rock and roll. Put everything in, just put the gun into the lower receiver. Don't fully install the gun all the way back together. You can even do just the pistol grip and a motor. And but if you do that, make sure this doesn't move around like that. So it's always good to just put it into the lower receiver and put the buffer screw in, that way you can protect it. But do semi-auto, take it one shot. If it sounds, check your motor height, make sure it's your motor height's adjusted, which you should have already been if you shimmed it. And then if your gun just sounds like hot dog water from the first couple of shots, then you gotta re-shim it. You just gotta do your thing. If your gun sounds good and it sounds beautiful, give yourself a high five, jump around and have fun, and then drop it back into your gun and go outside and make sure the gun shoots first, because sometimes the gun will sound great but then it won't feed. So you want to make sure everything works before you take it to the field. Okay, and anyway guys, that is my final video until God knows when. But yeah, love you guys, have a wonderful day, and keep on airsofting, Cat Army. Peace.